What up, all you HubSpot pros out there? Welcome to becoming a HubSpot super admin. I am Matt, bowling with Supered. And if you are a HubSpot admin or you're on your way to becoming one, Brian Kreutz, Brain Hub from Rev Partners, is with us here today to learn his story. What up, Brian? How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. It's great to be on with you, and it's great to chat some HubSpot stuff.
I love it. If you did not know Brian's nickname, it is, and he loves it. You should call him this all the time. His nickname, first, he is a wizard of RevOps. Number two is he is Brain Hub Kreutz. So if you ever see him in the wild at Inbound or in LinkedIn, please call him those things.
To be clear to the HubSpot community, this is not a self-imposed nickname. It is not something I regularly listen for, but if you call me that at Inbound, I may answer.
It was actually, we did a RevOps summer school together, and that's after Brian showed everything in HubSpot, they coined him, and he was forcibly called Brain Hub. So anyway, that's cool. We'll probably get into that story at some point as we get down. Brian, the way I like to do at the beginning of this is so people get to learn a bit more about you. What, if you could have any superpower besides being amazing at HubSpot, which you already are, what other superpower would you want?
It would pretty easy. It'd be teleportation or flying. I love to travel. I'm on the road right now, but I hate the act of traveling. I'm extremely impatient. I don't like waiting in lines. I don't like sitting on airplanes. I don't like interacting with large groups. And so I'm constantly traveling, but I do not love the act of getting from point A to point B. And so if I could remove that, I think it would increase my livelihood 10x.
10x. So you're going to start teleporting. You say you like to travel. What does liking to travel mean to Brian? What's a fact that would tell the world that's true?
I have been to 48 countries and I think like 40 states. And just this week, I drove 26 hours in the car to visit 3 states I've never been to. No other reason, just because I said, I've never been there, I'm going to go. And I just went.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, it's always worth it. It's always worth it. Encourage anyone and everyone to travel. And I think it kind of relates to RevOps in that role, you kind of do new things every day. No 2 days are the same. And so I get bored in kind of the same environment. And so when I get bored, I just leave and go to a new place. And it kind of reignites that. It's just fun going to a new place. And so it's probably my travel bug is related to my job or vice versa.
I like it. Well, that is Brian likes to travel. And if you've ever met him in the wild, you also know he has a background, and he has the same background every single time. And it's not the background he has here. So if you're watching this, just know you are seeing Brian in a way very few people do. So just as a point.
Yeah, it's ironic. This is the first co-working space I've actually been to in like 5 years. And so this is the only normal background I've ever had in like the last 3 years. And it just happened to be today. And so I'm really glad we didn't do this yesterday because it was very different.
Well, as we get into your story is, I think what's novel about the HubSpot ecosystem, and I think you appreciate this, is especially because you have a Salesforce background, is Salesforce has been around since the late 90s. And so people people have retired from being Salesforce consultants and running businesses and like made extreme amount of wealth in this ecosystem, right? There's this level of maturity that comes that quite frankly doesn't exist in the HubSpot one yet. So I love telling these stories because no one started really as HubSpot. And everybody comes from all these different diverse backgrounds. So I'd love to hear more about yours as we're talking about this. I want to hear your journey. What were you doing before HubSpot? And we can start like even at college. Like, how did you?
Yep.
What were you doing? Let's just go along that journey.
Yeah, so the origin story is kind of interesting. So I just finished my junior year of college. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, which is a fun town, and I didn't want to go back home to Atlanta for the summer. And so my dad said, you can stay in your college house in Charleston if you get an internship. And so I need to find an internship. I don't know really what that is. I don't really know how to find one. And so a couple blocks from my house is the main street. It's called King Street in Charleston. And there was this brand new building that popped up. And I Googled it, and it was a software company. And so I literally thought, I want to stay here with my friends. I need an internship. And so I went and knocked on the door in the intercom and said, "Hi, I'm here for an internship," or something like that. And
they didn't have anything posted. You just went up.
No, nothing, like nothing online, like anything. And so I walked into the receptionist and said, "Hey, like I want like an internship or like something." And she was like, "We don't really have any of these, blah, blah, blah." And so she called like the nearest manager she could find to try to like get him to like have me like leave the premises, is what I'm assuming. And so she called this guy in, his name's Doug, and she said, "Hey, this guy wants to talk to you." I said, "Hey, my name is Brian. I'm a student at the business school at College of Charleston. I really want an internship." And he's like, "Yeah, we don't really have any of those. Like, I don't want to deal with this, essentially." And then I go, I'll work for free and I'll start tomorrow. And then he immediately said, "Okay, great. Let's have a little chat." We sat down for like 20 minutes and said, "You'll come in tomorrow?" I said, "I'll come in every day." And so I essentially signed up for a free 40 hours a week internship just so I could stay and be even more broke than I already was in the college town. Now, the reason that's my origin story is because this individual, random, manager, was leading the demand generation department, which essentially was the sales ops department. And so I just randomly got connected to like the perfect person to start my journey. And so he now had this free unpaid intern that he could run experiments with. And so we were a high growth software company, just raised like their Series C, and they needed to, bring in new leads. And so I did a bunch of crazy experiments. And because I was a free resource, there was no risk for him. It was just upside. And so I sat down my first day in this like new office. I'm a college kid, got my collared shirt on, don't really know what to do. And the girl next to me said, "This is a CRM. If you become an expert, the only way you're going to stick at this company, because you know nothing about anything, is if you become an expert in this CRM. I guarantee you will have a successful career." And that is essentially how I got started.
Wow. So you knocked on the door that you knew nothing about, company you knew nothing about. I said, "I'll work for free, 40 hours a week, intern." You come in the first day and says, "You're the person, Brian, you're dumb. But if you do one thing to be successful here, learn a CRM." That person sounds like an angel. Sounds like an angel.
What's really funny is that person at a couple companies later worked with my current CEO, Brendan, at his previous company. And actually, she helped me convince Brendan to hire me 2 years ago at Rev Partners. And so this whole RevOps or HubSpot admin ecosystem, it really is like this circle where almost every interaction I've had in business since then started with that. And it only started because I just said, "I'll work for free. I'll do whatever you want." And I said all my senior year of college, right? I still have a full year of college to graduate. I said all my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I went into that office 9 to 5 every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an entire year, got paid zero. But wow. I got hired full-time in February, 2 months before I graduated, and started full-time as soon as I graduated. And so even though I was the poorest kid of all my friend groups, they all hated me because I had no money. I was going in this, high tech office every day for this software company. And, fast forward a year later, I was running the entire CRM as their CRM admin as a 22-year-old for this 150 person company because I listened to what she said and said, this CRM thing, which they don't teach you in college at the time, is this magic black box. And if I am that expert, I will grow my career. And now I've been doing this for 10 plus years now.
Wow. This is, when you think about a learning lesson and just in general, it could be college, but it could also be before. If you make a career switch, if you enter anybody ever, the vast majority of companies do not have they don't have a CRM run. And so if you just get good at a piece of software, the CRM or a marketing automation platform, you come in, work for free, provide value, you will get hired. And I think there is a high probability. I don't know if you will, but there's a high probability. Brian, what
Yeah, and it's not even, just real
what
quick,
system was that?
it's not even the system with Salesforce, but not even when you get hired in the initial thing. Every job I've gotten throughout my career, every consulting gig for, side hustle or whatever, every single one of those has come from my initial network. And so if you can prove your value to some of these managers, a lot of people switch jobs, especially in sales organizations, they will bring you in. I have not worked with this sales manager for like 6 years. He messaged me on LinkedIn yesterday and said, "Hey, I need help with the CRM. Can you help me out?" And so these things like the ROI of doing a good job early on is almost exponential, because if people are like, "Brian or Matt, this is my guy or gal that I know runs a really tight ship with operations," they will always bring you back. And that's something important to note, is that just crush that first gig, and I promise you it will pay dividends later in life.
I mean, you're getting good philosophical. Is do what's in front of you now, and it will provide what will be in front of you later. And if you think too much about the future, it will actually destroy the future. So it's just as a point. So if you think about making a lot of money as an intern, you're not willing to do it for free, then it's really difficult to get a job, and it just takes more time. Just like it's how you do what's in front of you, be present. So you got really good at Salesforce. This was get good at the CRM. You got done at Salesforce. You were a CRM for this company. Walk me through progression. What happened? Because you eventually ended up at HubSpot. It's like, what happened in between?
Yep. So that initial kind of guardian angel that said, "Burn this CRM," she taught me everything I knew, and then she ended up leaving. She got a promotion, and so she left and moved to San Francisco. And she told internally, "You need to let Brian do this role." So I was underqualified, but I was kind of ready for it, and so I was kind of running sales ops for this company, and then kind of the career progression was like, I was like the lowest paid person there. I went from free to like the lowest paid, but I started like getting involved with the CEO, because when you own the CRM, you start getting elevated to different conversations because you're that internal expert. And so that CEO referred me to one of his CEO buddies. The CEO called me directly and said, "I want to hire you. I'll pay you double what you're getting paid." I went over to his company. We acquired 4 other companies, and he said, "I want you to run the acquisition integration. I want you to do this." I co-founded a software company with this guy. Then my first original boss, the guy that I was the free intern under, recommended me to another company, and I doubled my salary again and became director level. And so the beginning was like very slow, but it went exponential, and I just went like lowest paid, double to like second lowest paid, double again and double again. And eventually you start kind of making a career out of this. And then my current job with Red Partners, I never used HubSpot before, but I knew very well how CRMs work. I knew objects, I know validations, all that stuff.
Yep, go ahead. 1 second, because I heard something really that I just want to pick it out, because it's a pearl of wisdom, and I want to make sure we sit on it. It is if you get really good at a CRM, and this is HubSpot, this would be Salesforce, this would be anywhere, but if you get really good at a CRM, and really what happens, that's where the data lives. That's where the questions are answered. So this CEO, what this is, it is you have the opportunity as a CRM to have direct access to the C-suite that you just don't get access to for other levels in the organization. So you're at the same level, but the CEO can't, like, if you're the person that knows it, will come to you to get a question answered. And if you answer these questions consistently, they will drag you up. They will drag you up.
That is correct, but it's definitely a mindset and mentality thing. It is very easy to present the answer to these questions to your boss, and the boss presents them. And so what I did early on was saying, "Hey, here's this thing I worked on. Do you mind if I present this? Do you mind if I roll this out to the sales team? Can I do this?" And so I had to be proactively initiate those opportunities. They're going to support you and say yes every time, but there is a type of CRM admin, whatever you want to call it, sales ops person, rev ops person, that can live in the shadows and doesn't get that necessary spotlight because they don't seek it out. It is not natural for the CEO to go to one of the lowest paid employees and hear a presentation from them. But what almost every CEO or executive will do is part of their job is growing their team, which grows their company. And so if you seek out those opportunities, they are very, very receptive. And so I sought those
Yes.
out. I asked for feedback from these managers. And because of that simple action from don't present up, present for them, or don't present to, present, for, that mindset shift really helped kind of accentuate that growth path.
Oh gosh. And I just as coming from a people will like no one wants to present. Everybody if you can present for them, they will always say yes. It will make them look better as a manager because one of their people that they're helping develop is able to do it. And so ask those opportunities, you will get them. I think that's a really good point that I just didn't think about there. So you will have the opportunities if you ask as a CRM admin to have more access than you should based on your level. I think that's like a core. That is a core aspect that I think we miss. Okay, so you're dragged with it. You were asking for opportunities. You had some opportunities. I'm sure you missed sometimes. You hit others, but eventually you won them over as a person that's consistent that they can rely on. They're bringing you in places. What happened for your switch, and how did you become? How did you convert from Salesforce to HubSpot, and when and like out even the feeling, like what was the feeling? Why did you risk that, if you would, like when you were thinking through it?
So it goes back to this kind of community aspect. When I first started in this kind of industry, if you want to call it that, RevOps wasn't even coined yet. It wasn't even a term yet, right? It was sales operations was like brand new, but it wasn't even that. And so a lot of times when you're starting out, if you work at small companies like I did, like startups, you're kind of a team of one or maybe a team of two. And so it's very hard to learn new things with your coworkers. And so there's these communities like the Sprocketeer community that you can get involved in, which is great, but it's still not quite your coworkers. And so I wanted to join Rev Partners because now I have 30, 40, 50 revenue operation folks that are passionate in revenue operations that I can actually learn for and be kind of passionate with. And so that was really the switch to HubSpot, is that it's a much kind of safer space to really grow and develop your skills, because like you said, it is fairly new as an enterprise CRM platform. And so people are much more open to share their experiences, give you tips and tricks, and kind of go on this journey together. And so it felt like I was like at this, not kind of like a plateau where it's like kind of this bloated ecosystem of people that are kind of like, they don't want to like share all their secrets because it's kind of like what they own in their career. They don't, and they know that someone else can take it. Whereas HubSpot's kind of this other parallel path that people seem a lot more receptive to kind of go on the journey with you, because no one's really been doing HubSpot stuff for 15 years, where there's millions of people that have been doing, Salesforce or Dynamics stuff for 10 years. So it's just it's a very different kind of personality, like community personality, if that makes sense.
It's insightful. Yeah. So what I heard you say was, when you're making the switch, you were lured, or like the luring portion was, hey, there's something different about this community because there's less enterprise use cases. And now there's even more. I mean, this was when you said yes, it was 2 years ago from now, which is like already been a shift. But now you have,
for sure.
It's like there's learnings happening. People are sharing. It's easier to learn, but also there's this like camaraderie that comes with, hey, we're paving a brand new way. If you would, some people call them hubvolutionaries, right? Like you're doing this, you're part of this movement where Salesforce, there's not a movement, and the movement's over. It's just like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So
yeah, 100% agree.
When you're going through this, and you've been at Rev Partners 2 years, you are now head of product, head of the, how has your job changed as you've gotten good at HubSpot?
So instead of taking projects and doing them for an internal company and just kind of working through them, essentially I'm creating content and projects and products for the masses. And so while we use a lot of these things internally, so now we have 20, 30 strategists that use this and touch up to 100 partners with this kind of content strategies, best practices, but we're also putting a lot of this stuff external facing so that thousands of people can access this stuff and learn best practices and take some of the content that we create and apply it to their business so that they can really help these grow. And so while it's kind of like not exactly, it's kind of tangential, but it's almost like, I am at a place where I can share all my learnings and continue to share these learnings to impact revenue growth for potentially thousands of companies in the ecosystem, because they can apply some of these tactics to their companies and, flourish themselves. And so that's what I'm hoping to kind of achieve in this role, where it's grow the internal team, but also externally help other people grow themselves.
What is not said overtly, but implicit, so that I will help make explicit, is some people, I would even say, including myself, are talking heads that don't know as much about RevOps that you may listen to. Then there are other people that are literally on the field doing the plays themselves. Ryan is on the play making the fields themselves, and he's literally creating the future in many ways of HubSpot and how to use it, like on the bleeding edge. And if you ever have a question, I mean, he's even created an entire framework called the RevOps maturity framework that most people probably haven't heard of. That is brilliant. If you ever have a question, I would just stop for a second. And who should you go learn something from? I would bother. He probably won't say yes because he's really busy. But if he does, you can bother Brian. And he is nothing but, he'll drop nothing but pearls, and he will be your guardian angel, like in the same way that he had. I know that's something that he would do. Brian, what was the biggest challenge from along the way, from specifically in switching from Salesforce mindset to a HubSpot one? Like, what has been the biggest challenge for you in the switch?
I mean, one of the challenges, because we are we work with several different types of companies, a lot of, bias around, can HubSpot do this? Can HubSpot do that? But that's kind of like more of a product thing. I think the biggest challenge is in revenue operations is getting the respect of the people that you're working with. And so revenue operations could have there's a lot of talk on there, but the way I simplify it is, my job is to tell you how to do your job differently. That's what my job is, to tell you to do things differently. If it's more efficient, great. If it's more effective, great. But essentially, you tell me to change your job. And an analogy I use is, let's say you drive to an office every day and it takes you 20 minutes. If I say, hey, Matt, this new route will take you 19 minutes and 30 seconds, it's more efficient. But you've been doing this drive for the last 5 years and you like it. Are you immediately going to hop on board? Maybe, maybe not. And a lot of the stuff that you do in RevOps with companies is kind of efficiencies at the margin, and there's a lot of potential pushback. You're like, no, this is actually 30 seconds faster, but they're saying, look, I don't really care. I'm comfortable with this. And so one of the things that I always preach is that you need to get the respect of the people you're working with, and so put yourself in their shoes, maybe specifically salespeople. So what I did early on was, because I was a young kind of professional in this, no one really respected me. They didn't want me to change the stuff they were doing. They said, you don't know us. And so one day I said, I'm going to pick up the phone and cold call. And so I called 100 pizza places in upstate New York, and I recorded every call, and I was a BDR for a day. And during the sales meeting with 30 of us later on that week, they actually played back some of the calls. And I fumbled the crap out of it. I didn't do a great job, but they said, look, Brian will go in the trenches with me. He wants to learn how we work. He wants to be kind of like a compadre, and not it's not us against him. He's with us. And so whatever you're kind of doing, there isn't this Salesforce and HubSpot necessarily mindset. The mindset is, how do I get kind of the respect and candor of the people that I'm working towards, and putting yourself in their shoes and actually doing things that they will respect is super helpful. Something else that I think people overlook is that, look, I work with these people every day. I'll prospect for them. If I see an account that I think is in their territory, I'll research them. I'll send it over and say, hey, created this new account. Maybe you should reach out to them. Or they were on our website. Or, this report I created, I think it might apply to you. We have to play the long game in this industry. So proactively dropping little gifts around the edges is just so smart in the long run. And doing some of that stuff in every role that I've been in to gain the respect of the team, to say that he's with us, not against us, is huge. And it's not natural, but no one likes the guy or the girl that's behind a computer all day, slacking them, clean up your pipeline, update this close date, do all this stuff. But if you're proactively saying, hey man, I saw that, these 5 deals, this stuff updated, I went ahead and filled out information for you just to be aware that I did it. That kind of stuff, you do it once a quarter or whatever, it goes a long way. Congratulate the sales reps for closing a deal. Don't get mad that they didn't fill out the industry property correctly. Fix it, but congratulate them. That type of stuff I think is overlooked. That really does go a long way. It's just being a human, being a nice person, but it's very, very helpful in this type of role because you interact with every department of the company.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that is you've given lots of pearls of wisdom during this time. I think this is a core one of just like a principle of being RevOps, and it is I'll say often like adoption is everything. And what I mean by that is one of these is every time you ask someone to do a process, you actually ask them to get worse at their job. You are giving them a promise or a dream of a future of 30% better.
Yep.
But when they first start, it's actually not going to be 30 seconds faster. It's going to be 15 seconds slower. And for them
Yep.
to believe in you, you have to bridge that gap for them. And so it requires you doing things over and beyond um, in order to earn the respect so you can guide them. And once you do that, that's why people will continuously bring you along the journey with them because you do that and you're able to affect change and adoption. That is the core of being a RevOps in any aspect.
Yeah.
So.
And I think adoption's a really key component is that a lot of times you'll roll out a process and you'll say, someone else needs to adopt this. I'm going to go run away. Think about adoption as adopting a puppy. If you roll out a new process, like you're not going to, or you adopt a puppy, you're not giving it away in a month. You have to clean up its, you take it out to the bathroom every day for the rest of your life. And so that's what a process is. If you're not willing to review every lead, every deal, everything, and keep this process adopted forever, then don't roll it out. A lot of people get things 80% baked, they roll it out, they look on to the next thing, and they forget about it, and there's this disconnect. So whenever, name your process, give it a dog's name, call it Spike. Have a little picture of it, and when you roll out a process, put that picture on your computer because you rolled out something new. You just adopted a puppy. You need to keep up with this process every single day forever. And if you aren't committed to doing that, you need to either rethink the benefit of the process, rethink the delivery method, and really begin to have that talk track up to the executive level. If they are not bought in to adopt this thing forever, it's going to break. And what I see all the time, as I say, where's all this technical debt? They're like, we rolled this out for 6 months, and we changed it, rolled this out again for 6 months, changed it, rolled it out again, and you have this Frankenstein thing, and it's just like, no, look, pick it and stick with it and do it forever. And there's this whole mentality of the bright, shiny object. Your CRM is a product, not a project. If you're not willing to take care of this new process puppy forever, don't do it.
Man, I'm going to sit there. Traditionally, Brian will go over, hey, what are the 3 to 5 things you would tell a RevOps person? But I think you've given that throughout. I'm going to attempt to recap what I've heard is it's from the very beginning of this journey. If number 1 is be willing to knock on a door and ask for an internship. So it's like be willing to do something dirty, be willing to learn without hindrance. Number 2, ask for the opportunity. So you will be, as a RevOps person, the ability to answer questions, ask for the opportunity to give those presentations over and over again. Number 3, remember that adoption requires a significant amount and you're asking people to get worse at their job. So adoption's everything and treat it that way and with that amount of effort. Man, I have really enjoyed this, Brian. I feel like I know you better. We even used to work with each other. I know you better. If you want to hear more about Brian, you can find him where, Brian? Where can I find you?
I don't want you to find me, and so I don't know where you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I will promise I will if you send me a message, I will usually answer. You will not see me posting long form content on LinkedIn quite yet, but you can find me at Inbound 2023. I will be giving a talk on mastering your conversion rates, and so come say hi to me at Inbound. I will be at the Rev Partners booth. So Inbound there. LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. It's not personal, but I only choose to share something like awesome in certain more like long form video content. And so don't get mad if I don't respond to you. I am here, and if you find me in person, it's a little harder to run away.
Another way you can get, if you want to learn more from Brian, is we talked about the summer school. You can go. He has an almost prolific way about how he solves customer conversion ratio tracking in HubSpot. Probably one of the first people to do it. And then he showed the world how to do it. It's actually the most popular video watched in HubSpot ThrowUps. It'll be the number one there. So you can see him and learn more from him. If you want more with Brian, reach out. Also, just reach out to anybody at Rev Partners and demand it, and they will get Brian to do something because Brian has a lot to share.
That's actually a really good point. Follow Rev Partners on LinkedIn. Follow the hashtag RevFlix, REVFLIX. A lot of the stuff that's presented from other people's profiles is actually some of the stuff that we create internally at Rev Partners. And so my face might not be on the post, but you can be rest assured that I have validated this, and everything that Rev Partners posts about RevOps wise is not just it's very specific, it's very actionable, and it is the correct way to do things. So follow Rev Partners, and you'll be essentially following me.
Yeah, Robert. I said Robert. I was thinking about Robert Jones, but Brian Kreutz, Brain Hub, is the brain behind a lot of the engine that is RP. Brian, thank you for spending time to show you're awesome with the world. Share about your journey. I think a lot of people are going to love this and be able to learn from it. I appreciate your time. So everybody, thank you for joining us for the HubSpot Super Admin. Stay awesome. Keep doing it big. And maybe stay super, everybody. Adios.
There you go. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.